Okay, we're back with Eduardo Tapia discussing some legal issues or legal questions, I should say, that have come up for real estate here in Baja. So we're going to go ahead and get started. How are you doing, Eduardo?
Good. Great. Happy to be here with you, Fletcher. It's been a while since our last shoot, so certainly good developments in the region for investments, and there's always the pitfalls that we need to have clients avoid.
Yes. So let's jump right in. First question we have today is about title insurance. Is title insurance necessary for all purchases? Most purchases here are done cash. Do you find it necessary to have title insurance for buyers here in Baja?
It's a good question. Just a little bit of background for title insurance. It's a fairly recent product, if you will. The last 20 years, that's when it started. The players for title insurance at that time were Stewart Title, and Lloyd's of London purchased what was Fidelity, and Fidelity is now Armor Secure. So basically, those are still the players that we have for title insurance in Mexico. They are authorized by the Mexican Commission of Insurance and Bonds. So those have the proper credentials for purposes of issuing insurance. In the early days of title insurance, they actually had to use the authorization of another company, Grupo Nacional Provincial, which was a Mexican insurance company, because the title insurance companies did not have themselves that authority to issue those insurance policies. So in a general sense, it is recommended, because even though the process is much more ironclad in Mexico than it is in the U.S., you really don't know if your seller is the person or the entity that has the best title out there. There are certain covenants that are not a matter of record. And if you recall, in the States, there is no obligatory registry of deeds. So some states have what it's called the touring system, where there are certain requirements to have those types of registries and records kept for each parcel of land. Here in Mexico, we have this system where there is an obligation to record the transfers, so that there is a public property registry where you can look. However, it's not a tracked index, so it's sometimes difficult if you don't have the key file or the number. There are obviously making strides in the property registry to get those things in orderly fashion, as far as getting the possibility of getting the actual information for a specific realty. But the problem sometimes arises where the notary public, which is a licensed attorney, has the obligation to relate the immediately preceding title. So the certificate of no liens would confirm two things. Would confirm obviously that the title is clean, but also who the owner of record is. And so if we're dealing with the owner of record that appears, then for all intents and purposes, that is done on the part of the notary. The problem sometimes lies where there are things prior to that, even though the certificate, because the certificate obviously is issued for the time frame. Sometimes it's a year to 3 years, 15 years, depending on the certificate. That's really how far they can go. And so if things are not made of record, that's when title insurance kicks in. And even though it's a more expensive product than in the States, title insurance, it is expensive as a comparison. You obviously have that fallback provision. Also, title insurance is very common in the States. So when you are looking at finance from states that have, like the United States or Canada, that are issuing that, they're very much accustomed to getting title insurance as part of their checklist, right? So that's one of the reasons why they are procuring the title insurance, simply to have those policies in place. So yeah, short answer, yes. Long answer, we have all the background to see. Well, sometimes there is a master development. You sometimes know things that have been for years, let's say 20 years with the same seller. Well, you might have less of a concern to get that, but and as a general rule, I think it is worth it. It also depending on the purchase price that you have that, and we could obviously discuss the exceptions that are many within the title insurance, there are ways to minimize or reduce those exceptions to have, like, for example, an auto survey, things like that, to have it exactly the meets and bounds determined. So that's normally what we have to be concerned as far as the title insurance, and having the exceptions that are manageable, because sometimes you have a lot of exceptions, and so what would be the point, right? Sometimes you get the title insurance and you have so many exceptions, and it really
Kind of
defeats the purpose.
Yeah. I know a lot of people rely on what you said, the certificate of no liens.
Mm-hmm.
And just before we finish this topic, what percentage of transactions in Baja do you think actually have title insurance?
Probably around 20%.
Okay, thanks.